Hello everyone, welcome to What If Issei Was Betrayed and Became Virgo Shaka Man Closest to the Gods movie. Before we start, please go support lucifer-ficks for writing that awesome fanfic. This is the translated version I made. There will be some mistaken characters' gender, but of course Issei is a male. Issei, after being defeated for the second time by the Phoenix Razor and being betrayed, tortured, and abandoned in a forest more dead than alive by his supposed friends and the woman he loved, but a mysterious woman appears in front of Issei. Chapter 1. The Birth of a Legend. Issei, after being defeated for the second time by the Phoenix Razor and being betrayed by the occult club and tortured by his so-called friends and the woman he loved, was abandoned in a forest more dead than alive, and this brings us to the present moment where there is an Issei with serious injuries and losing a lot of blood. Issei says, "Drag, so this was the thank you for trying to save Rias Gremory and seeing my heart given in exchange for lending me your power." Drag responds, "I told you, mate, that Gremory wasn't worth it." Issei responds, "I didn't believe you at first, Drag, but I see that you were absolutely right. But that doesn't matter anymore since I'm dying." But Issei and Drag hear an unknown voice saying, "Your destiny is not to die this way, your destiny is to aspire to greatness." And in a golden flash appeared the most beautiful woman Issei had ever seen. Issei, surprised, says, "Who are you?" Inside Issei, Drag was surprised to feel that power and knew who it was. Back with Issei, he asks the woman who the woman is and says, "I am Athena, the goddess of war and wisdom." Issei was surprised when he heard the woman say that. Issei responded, "And what does Athena-sama want of me if I'm already dying?" Athena says, "I want you to be one of my golden knights." Issei was surprised again. Athena says, "But first let me heal you." A few minutes later, Issei was as good as new. Issei says, "Thank you, Athena-sama." Athena says, "Well, as I was saying, I want you to be one of my golden knights. More specifically, the new golden saint of Virgo." Issei was going to say something, but Drag spoke to him mentally. Drag says, "Accept, partner, another opportunity like this will not come to you again and you will become much stronger to be able to protect your parents." Issei responds mentally, "Thank you, Drag. I will accept being the new golden knight of Virgo." Drag responds mentally, "That is the spirit companion." Issei responds mentally, "Then we talk, Drag." Issei cut the mental link outside of Issei's mind in the real world. A few minutes had passed where Athena was waiting. Issei's response, Issei says, "Sorry, Athena-sama was talking to Drag." Athena says, "Don't worry, Issei." Issei says, "Athena-sama accepted to be the new golden saint of Virgo." Athena says, "Well, Issei, besides, why I chose you as my new golden knight is because another type of energy sleeps inside you, which is called cosmos." Issei says, "It is the cosmos, Athena-sama." Athena begins to explain everything about the cosmos. After Athena explained about the cosmos to Issei, he was surprised. Athena says, "We will leave to the sanctuary at the house of Virgo." Athena says, "Very well, Issei, you will have a month to train and master your cosmos. But I will make with my power in the house of Virgo a special room where a week will be a year of training." Issei says, "Incredible, Athena-sama." Athena says, "If you want Issei, you can call me Lila, that's my human name." Issei says, "Okay, Lila-chan." Lila blushed when she heard Issei call her. Issei unconsciously said that Lila was pretty. Issei blushed again. Issei said that Lila-chan wanted to ask her a question before. Lila says, "And what is that question?" Issei says, "What happened to my parents? Are they okay? Are they Gremory?" "He didn't do anything to them." Lila says, "Your parents are fine, but that Gremory. I erase your parents' memory by making them believe that the former nun is their only daughter. I also erase the memory of all your friends." Issei when they hear about Lila. What the Gremory, Issei did was clenching his fists, beginning to bleed, and unconsciously he began to expel a huge golden cosmos. Lila says in her thoughts, "It's incredible that without knowing how to control her cosmos, she is unconsciously expelling it." Outside of Lila's thoughts in Issei's mind, Drag says, "Calm down, partner. Only Mighty Ace controls all my power and the power of the cosmos so that you can protect your parents from the shadows." Issei mentally responds, "Thanks." Drag out of Issei's mind stopped expelling his cosmos. Lila says, "Very well, Issei, we are going to the sanctuary so that your training as a Virgo Gold Knight can begin." Issei says, "Hi Lila-chan, I will become the most powerful Virgo Gold Saint of all time." Lila says, "Well then, that's a promise and I'll give you an initiative too. That you keep your promise," and smiled mischievously, and to the surprise of Issei and shock of Drag. Lila kissed Issei on the lips. He was surprised but let himself be carried away by the sensation. After a few seconds, Lila stopped kissing Issei and he was redder than a traffic light. Lila said, licking her lips, "You liked it, Issei-kun. That was my first kiss, so you have to take responsibility." Issei could only nod his head in agreement. Lila said, "Issei-kun, that's so you can keep your promise." Lila says, "Let's go." And took Issei's hand and the two disappeared in a golden flash. Appearing at the shrine in Virgo's house, Lila said, "Issei-kun will create the special room for you to train." I will also create a barrier around the house of Virgo so that no one can feel your cosmos. Or find out that there is already a new golden night of Virgo until the month ends, Issei says. Thanks Lila-chan. Lila created with her power the barrier around the house of Virgo and a house that seemed very simple. Lila says that house is where she will train. She looks very simple, but appearances can be deceiving. Issei-kun Lila says, see you in a month. Issei says see you Lila-chan and with a golden flash Lila disappeared leaving Issei and Dreg alone in Virgo's house. Issei saw a golden box with the image of a woman. Braid says, partner, I feel a great power coming from that box, that must be Virgo's golden armor. Issei mentally responds that's right Dreg that must be Virgo's golden armor. Well, let's begin my training to be able to master all your power and my cosmos. After all, Lila-chan told me that armor has the ability to teach you the techniques of its former wearers. Issei started walking to where the house was to begin his training. Chapter 2 Surprises. It had already been a month in real life and 4 years in the special room, no one in the sanctuary. I didn't know about Issei's existence, nor did Patriarch Lila. She was with 11 other people in golden armor and with a new patriarch. Lila says my knights have gathered them since Usaka, the leader of the Yakase, has asked for our help. Since people have been seen wearing black armor, what I think is that the specters are plotting something. And I also have a bad feeling about all this, and I have a suspicion of who might be taking over the underworld. A beautiful red-haired woman says. Athena-sama and who thinks she is taking over the underworld. Lila says I feel like the one who is taking charge of the underworld and the specters is my aunt Persephone. Since she, like my uncle Hades, hates humans and all supernatural beings. Everyone in Athena's chambers remained in a very uncomfortable silence until it was broken by Lila. Lila says so I will send 2 golden knights to Kyoto to investigate and help Usaka. And if you can, get information about what the specters are planning. The beautiful red-haired woman already says who Athena-sama will send. Lila says Helena varies. I will send you and the new golden knight of Virgo. Helena says somewhat surprised, there is already a new golden knight of Virgo. Lila says that's Helena Nicholas de Leo. Athena-sama says and who is the new golden knight of Virgo Lila says is the security. Nicholas says surprised, so one of the 2 feared celestial dragons is on our side, so it must be very powerful. Libra Shorin. He says excitedly, I want to meet him. He must surely be very powerful. Lila says let's go look for him at Virgo's house, everyone says hi Athena-sama. And in a golden flash, everyone disappears from Athena's chambers to appear outside Virgo's house. Lila says, come on, my gentlemen, let's go in. Lila started walking towards the interior of Virgo's house. To be followed by the 11 golden knights and the patriarch. Everyone entered Virgo's house to be blinded for a few seconds by an intense light. And when they were able to regain their sight, everyone was surprised except Lila. Since in front of them there was a beautiful meadow with lakes and flowers. The beautiful blonde woman says this is the house of Virgo Athena-sama. Lila says that's Flora of Pisces. Lila says the zodiac houses that you protect have the ability. That with the cosmos of the Golden Knight protecting their home, they can change for the better comfort of the Golden Knight. Everyone was surprised by Athena's explanation, but everyone was taken out of his astonishment at hearing an unknown voice say Issei you fell in love with Lila-sama. Issei blushed when he heard Drake say that. Flora asks, whose voice is that? Nicholas of Leo. The voice says, coming from there, Nicholas pointed to a brown-haired man with hair that reached his waist and a huge red glove that covered his entire arm. The women blushed deeply upon seeing him but continued listening to the conversation. Lila says in her thoughts that as Issei-kun, he became very handsome. And that's Drake plus I feel in Issei a cosmos that can rival me, but he continued listening to Drake and Issei's conversation. Issei says don't say that Drake answers what's wrong with Issei just admit that you fell in love with Lila-sama. Issei turned red and didn't answer. Drake says, it's good that you fell in love. Drake also says Lila-sama kissed you and told you that this was her first kiss and you should take responsibility. Issei, upon hearing what Drake said, turned as red as an apple. A few meters from where Issei was, Lila was as red as a tomato. And the other golden knights like the patriarch were speechless and began to look at Lila questioningly. Lila says don't look at me like that, I got carried away by the moment, back to Issei and Drake's conversation. Drake says or don't you remember what you told me that if it was necessary to protect Lila-sama. And her smile would make you face Olympus itself, Drake finished saying. Issei doesn't respond, but he was so red he would put a strawberry to shame. A few meters from where Issei was, Lila was also red. Lila says in her thoughts. In fact, Issei-kun fell in love with me. Those were Lila's thoughts. Outside of Lila's thoughts, the patriarch says, Athena-sama, why don't you call him? Lila says, okay. Lila screams Issei-kun Issei, upon hearing that they were talking to him, saw Lila and turned red again. Greg says out loud, come on, Issei is calling you, you're female. Issei was more than red. Issei doesn't say, we'll talk later, Drake, and the glove disappears. Issei began to walk where Lila and the other Golden Saints and the Patriarch were. The women blushed again when they saw him from the front since Issei was dressed in black pants, black combat boots that reached his knees, and black leather fingerless gloves. And an eye patch on his left eye. The eye patch on his left eye surprised Lila. Issei arrived where Lila and the other Golden Saints were, and Patriarch Issei says hello Lila-chan. Lila turned red again and that was noticed by everyone. Lila says Issei, why do you have an eye patch on your left eye? I remember that you had both of your eyes fine. Issei says, my left eye was a small price to pay for having the power to protect her, Lila-chan. Lila says Issei-kun's power. Issei says the power to jump through time and have control over time itself. Everyone was surprised when they heard Issei say that and they all had one thought. The power capable of allowing you to jump in time and have control over time itself is something that only some gods can do, those were everyone's thoughts. Lila says Issei-kun can you show me your left eye? Issei removed his eye patch, revealing a golden eye with Roman numerals. Everyone was surprised when they saw Issei's eye. Lila said worriedly. Issei-kun, are you sure? Issei says, yes, it is. Lila-chan said. Lila says Issei-kun they will be new companions. Chapter 3 Spectres. After Lila said they will be your new classmates, Lila says to introduce everyone. The black-haired man says, I really liked it. My name is Nicholas, the new Golden Knight of Leo. The beautiful blonde woman says very much like my name is Flora, new Amazon of Pisces. The beautiful red-haired woman says, I really liked it. My name is Helena, a new Aries Amazon. The beautiful green-haired woman says hello, my name is Yasmin, the new Amazon of Scorpio. The blonde says he really liked my name is Linus, the new Golden Knight of Taurus. The red-haired man says, I really liked it. My name is Argeos, the new Golden Knight of Sagittarius. The gray-haired man says hello, my name is Seleno, the new Golden Knight of Cancer. The blue-haired man says, I really liked it. My name is Lumen from Gemini. The dark brown man says my name is Jehe, the new Golden Knight of Aquarius. Another black-haired guy says he really liked it, my name is Shorin, new Golden Knight of Libra. Another dark brown says my name is Nabuo, new Golden Knight of Capricorn. Another black-haired man says nice to meet you, my name is Shiryu, current Patriarch of the Sanctuary. Issei answers, I really liked it. My name is Issei Hyoudou, current Security and new Golden Knight of Virgo. Lila says very well since everyone has introduced themselves Issei-kun I have a mission for you, Issei says a mission Lila-chan. Lila says your mission is to go to Kyoto to the city of the Yakeis since Usaka, the current queen of the Yakeis, asked us for help. Since subjects with black armor have been seen, it is most likely that they are ghosts. Lila says Issei, you will go with Helena and if you can get information about what the specters are planning to do. Issei says okay, Lila-chan. Lila gives them a magic circle and says that it will take them to the capital of the Yakeis and bring them back to the sanctuary. Issei formed a sadistic smile that Shiryu, seeing that smile, felt a chill run down his spine. Issei with that sadistic smile says see you Lila-chan. Helena says see you Athena-sama. Issei like Helena disappear in a golden flash. Shiryu said that Zeus take mercy on the souls of those specters. Lila says why do you say that Shiryu? Shiryu says that smile I've only seen on someone. And believe me when he put on that smile, it was better to run for your life or beg for it. Lila says Shiryu and who smiled like that? Shiryu says the former Virgo Knight. Virgo Shaka, everyone was surprised when they heard Shiryu say that. Lila says she didn't know that. Lila says very well, my knights can withdraw to continue protecting their homes. So leaving the Golden Knights of the House of Virgo, but all the knights left. But the single thought how powerful is Issei really leaving. In the House of Virgo only Lila and Shiryu. Shiryu tells Athena-sama how powerful Issei really is. Lila says no lose Shiryu. Shiryu says Athena-sama and since when does Issei call her Lila-chan? Lila blushed deeply and said, don't say anything, Shiryu, and let's go. So Lila and Shiryu disappeared in a golden flash, leaving Virgo's house alone. Meanwhile, in another more specific place in Kyoto, in the city of Yakeis. Everything was chaos and in a golden flash Issei appears with Helena. Issei began to feel many cosmoses, but one more powerful than the others that could fight a golden knight or even kill him. Issei says Helena, I will take care of these specters, I will go for the most powerful cosmos. Helena was going to say something, but Issei was no longer there. Helena says idiot. Meanwhile in another place in Kyoto. There were one subjects with black armor, the subject of the black armor. Was fighting with a beautiful blonde woman who was very injured, the subjects with black armor. He says I wonder why Persephone was interested in Usama, but it doesn't matter, I'll kill you. Holding the woman by the hair, a blonde girl says leave my mother. The blonde woman with tears in her eyes and with serious injuries says this guy will kill me. But they all heard an unknown voice say zero, sending a sphere of energy with red and black rays. Hitting the guy in black armor, sending him flying into the rubble. Moments before, Issei was running at great speed where he felt that powerful cosmos and heard a girl scream and saw a beautiful girl. The very hurt blonde sees a specter. Issei points her finger to begin to be surrounded by a red energy with black rays and says zero, sending one of the specters flying. Current moment, Issei appears in front of Yusaka. Issei does not take this as a joke and says come to my Virgo armor like this. Issei wearing the Virgo armor. Just change Shaka to Issei. The specter that Issei sent flying into the rubble came out furious. And said who was the damned one to see a brown-haired man with hair that reached his waist and with golden armor. The specter says, wait, a fat rat from the Issei shrine says, without turning around, he says to the woman, stay behind me, I will protect you. The woman, upon hearing the person who saved her say that, felt her heart begin to beat strongly. Issei calmly says who is the specter that Issei sent flying into the rubble. He says my name is Rhadamanthys of Wyvern, one of the 3 judges of the underworld. Issei smiles sadistically and says I hit the jackpot. Rhadamanthys says damn. To get out of the rubble and at the speed of light he launched himself against Issei. Issei also did it against Rhadamanthys, compensating for a great fight where you could only hear the blows and you could see shock waves wherever they passed. Starting to break their armor, but they didn't care. Issei and Rhadamanthys gave each other a powerful blow that sent Issei flying. Where the blonde woman was and the newcomer Helena, Rhadamanthys flew into some rubble. Issei recovered in the air, falling where Helena and the blonde woman were. Helena, seeing Issei with his armor with broken parts and somewhat injured, became very worried. Although she didn't know why, the blonde woman said in her thoughts, so this is the power of a golden knight in service to the goddess Athena. I have to make an alliance with the sanctuary and its goddess. Chapter 4, Issei vs Rhadamanthys. The blonde woman came out of her thoughts when she heard Issei's voice. Issei says Helena-chan, are you okay? Helena blushed when she heard Issei call her. Issei looks at the blonde woman and says excuse me, what is your name? The blonde woman says my name is Yusaka, the current queen of the Akase. Issei says beautiful name for such a beautiful woman. Yusaka, upon hearing Issei call her beautiful, she blushed deeply. Yusaka blushes and says, what is your name? Issei says, my name is Issei Hyoudou, current security and new Virgo Gold Saint. Yusaka-chan. Yusaka blushed. Issei said, let's continue with this conversation later. Yusaka-chan, I have a fight pending. Issei finished. And from the rubble emerged a Rhadamanthys with some parts of its armor broken. Rhadamanthys says furious, damn golden knight, I will kill you. Rhadamanthys began to be surrounded by darkness and began to expel a monstrous amount of cosmos. While in Greece, in the sanctuary in Athena's chambers, the 10 golden knights entered, surprised by the enormous cosmos they felt. Nicholas of Leo says that it is that cosmos Athena-sama overcomes a golden knight. Then she comes to where Helena and Issei are. Lila, without thinking about it, with her power, created a hologram where Issei and Helena were. Lila, seeing Issei somewhat injured, became worried, but even more so when she saw who he was fighting with. Nicholas of Leo says that Athena-sama, against whom Issei is fighting, is not one of the 3 judges of the underworld. Lila answers, that's Nicholas, but what is a judge of the underworld doing in Kyoto? For now, let's see the fight, Lila finished saying. Back to the fight, Helena and Yusaka felt that enormous cosmos and got on their knees, and the girl who screamed fainted from the pressure. Issei says I'll get serious in this fight, taking off the patch on his left eye. They get into a strange fighting pose. Rhadamanthys without saying anything disappeared in a blur of speed. Issei also disappeared to see how Rhadamanthys fell to his knees with his armor broken and spitting out a mouthful of blood. Issei appeared behind Rhadamanthys still with that fighting pose. Nobody knew what happened. Rhadamanthys says, hurt, what the hell did you do? Issei says, with you it wouldn't be interesting alone. I use my Takitabashi, a technique that allows me to jump in time 0.2 seconds and move between time itself. Rhadamanthys was surprised, as were those who were watching the fight. But Yusaka and Helena, they were surprised by Issei's technique and his powers to control time, and they only had one thought. How powerful Issei really is. In the sanctuary, all the golden saints Lila and Shiryu were surprised. Lila says Issei-kun has a fear ability, and the other golden saints nodded. Back to the fight, already recovered, Rhadamanthys says that is impossible, how can anyone? How can you jump in time and be able to control it? That's something that only some gods can control. Rhadamanthys says furious, damn golden knight, I will kill you. He stood up from the floor spitting blood to compensate for being surrounded by a huge dark cosmos. And began to expel a monstrous amount of cosmos. Helena says in her thoughts. What is this monstrous power? This is not the cosmos of a judge of the underworld, but rather the cosmos of a god. Issei-kun is in serious trouble at the sanctuary, everyone was surprised and somewhat terrified by the cosmos. Athena Sama says that the cosmos is very similar to that of Hypnos or Thanatos. Lila surprised says then that Spectre has the power at a level of the two twin gods. Lila says in a whisper, be very careful, Issei-kun, back to the fight, Yusaka was terrified by the sensation of death she felt. And she thought terrified, so this is the power of a judge of the underworld, there is no doubt that it leaves Amayu in shame. With Radamanthys this in a black flash that left everyone blind for a few seconds. After the light disappears, we see Radamanthys in his new armor. Radamanthys says arrogant mind Golden Knight I gave you the pleasure of seeing my divine armor. Consider it a gift of death, but Issei didn't even flinch. Radamanthys says arrogantly, what's up, Golden Knight? To the point, you are already disgusted by your death. Issei said nothing and just smiled sadistically and began to be surrounded by a large golden cosmos. Issei says in a whisper Virgo armor Nirvana mode. Issei when he finished saying those words was covered in an intense golden glow that left everyone blind for a few seconds to show the new form of the Virgo armor. Everyone was surprised to see the new form of Virgo's armor and the women blushed furiously. At the sanctuary everyone was surprised. Lila blushed a lot when she saw Issei in that armor. Lila's thoughts Issei-kun looked so powerful and handsome in that armor. Flora's thoughts, well, the new Golden Knight of Virgo is a treasure chest of tricks as well as being very powerful and handsome. Yasmin's thoughts. Wow, that guy looks so powerful and handsome, but he must be like all the other men. Those were the thoughts of the women at the shrine on their way back to the fight with Helena and Yusaka. Belena's thoughts. Issei-kun looks so handsome in that armor. I wonder if he has a girlfriend. Isaka's thoughts, so this is the power of a Golden Knight serving Athena. Besides being very powerful and handsome, I wonder if he has a girlfriend. In the Issei vs Radamanthys fight, Radamanthys was somewhat surprised by Virgo's new golden armor. Radamanthys was flying with his wings failing and says that's all your power is insignificant. Issei began to fly, surprising everyone even more that he could fly without wings. Issei without saying anything disappeared in a blur of speed. Radamanthys seeing this also disappeared in a blur of speed and a big fight began in the sky. But you could only see a golden light crash into a black light. Issei began. He used his Takidabashi, but Radamanthys sometimes managed to defend himself and other times managed to hit him. Doing some damage, Issei hit Radamanthys in the stomach, leaving him without air for a few seconds, and that was an opportunity for Issei. Issei said take this. The 100 supreme dragons of the sky appeared. Golden dragons struck Radamanthys, sending him to the ground and making him scream in pain. In Athena's chambers, Shiryu and Shorin were surprised to see that technique. Shorin says that technique is very similar to the 100 supreme dragons of the Rosen. Shiryu says I've never seen Shaka use that technique, so I think Issei created it. Back to the fight before Radamanthys' hair hits the ground, Issei says, receive this, the treasure of heaven, suddenly taking away Radamanthys' 5 senses. Issei says not yet and says Trident of Doom, sending a powerful torrent of black fire to Radamanthys, who could not even defend himself. And trying to cover himself but couldn't. Issei says with this attack he finished and began to gather in Issei's hand a sphere of golden cosmos with black rays. And then a sound like a certain one is heard so that everyone could see a golden shuriken with black rays. Issei says shuriken of extinction, throwing it where the Trident of Doom was and causing a huge explosion. Where everyone saw Radamanthys fall with his armor broken and began to turn into black particles that the wind began to carry away. In Athena's chambers, everything was uncomfortably silent. Yasmin says those techniques are terrifying. Look, with 4 attacks you can kill a judge of the underworld with divine armor. Nicola says even if one of us received any of those techniques we would not come out unscathed from it. Lila stopped creating the hologram and says in a whisper that no one heard, so you kept your promise. Shiryu says that I saw that Issei is on our side. Shorin says that's good that he's on our side. Patriarch back to Kyoto. Issei descended from the sky where Helena and Yusaka were, the Virgo Nirvana mode armor disappeared as well as the normal one, revealing Issei shirtless. Issei says Ara he died, well what can you do? Helena and Yusaka were blushing when they saw the body in Issei's form. Issei says Helena-chan Yusaka-chan did you see where I left my eye patch? Yusaka and Helena were surprised that Issei cared more about his eye patch instead of worrying about him not wearing a shirt. Helena's thoughts, Issei does have a good body, but I'm not complaining about the view, and Issei's perverted mind began to see outside Helena's thoughts. Issei. He saw how Yusaka had a blonde girl on her lap, unconscious. Issei says Helena-chan, it's time to retreat back to the sanctuary, taking her out of her thoughts for nothing. Santos with Issei. Yusaka, upon hearing Issei say that, became sad, but something occurred to her. Isaka says Issei Dono could go with you to the sanctuary to make an alliance with the sanctuary and its goddess Athena. Chapter 5 New Alliance. After which Isaka said he wanted a meeting with the sanctuary and with its goddess Athena. Issei says then you should come with us to the Isaka-chan shrine. Isaka says this is what I saw and I'll go with you to the shrine. Issei donated, but then the girl Isaka had in her arms woke up. The girl says Mom, are you okay? Isaka says yes, I'm okay Kunu. Kunu looked better to see a beautiful red-haired woman in golden armor. And still brown with hair that reached her waist and eyes of a different color and without a shirt, Kunu blushed deeply. And this was noticed by Helena and Isaka. Kunu says who are you? Helena says she really liked it, little one, my name is Helena, Aries Amazon at the service of Athena, Sama. Helena finished introducing herself with a smile. Issei says he really liked it, little one. My name is Issei Hyoudou, Golden Knight of Virgo, and considered the man closest to a god. Kunu, upon hearing Issei say that, was surprised because she had heard of the Golden Saint of Virgo. Who was said to be able to stand up to any of the 5 dragon kings and even defeat them. Isaka was another story, Isaka's thoughts. Wow, the title speaks volumes about the monstrous power that is carried out of Isaka's thoughts. Issei says, well Helena-chan, Isaka-chan and Kunu, it's time to retreat to the shrine so Isaka-chan can talk to Lila-chan. Helena says okay Issei-kun. Helena says very well we are going. Helena takes out a paper with a magic circle and the 4 disappear in a golden flash. To appear outside the sanctuary in the village would be the sanctuary. Isaka and Kunu were surprised when they saw the shrine. Helena said, well, let's go, those stairs won't go up by themselves. And so they began to pass one by one the houses until they reached Athena's chambers where Isaka was more than pissed off because Issei was carrying Helena like a princess. Until they arrived at Athena's chambers where all the golden knights and the patriarch were. Lila, seeing how Issei was carrying Helena, made a bonita. Lila says Issei-kun, can you tell me why Helena comes in your arms and what the Isaka Yakai meeting is doing here? Issei says Lila-chan, she told me that she twisted her ankle and couldn't walk and Isaka-chan told me that she wanted to make an alliance with the shrine and with you. Nobody could believe such a cheap excuse. Helena says, Issei-kun, I think I can walk now, so you can put me down now. Issei lowered Helena to the ground very carefully, as if she were a very delicate piece of porcelain. And all the women blushed furiously except Isaka when they saw Issei shirtless. Issei says Lila-chan, why are you blushing? Lila blushing, says Issei-kun, why don't you have a shirt? Issei says ara, so that's why Helena-chan, Isaka-chan and the women of the village saw me pervertedly. Issei smiled mischievously and that didn't give anyone a good feeling. Issei says, tell me, Lila-chan, there's something you like. If you want, you can touch it. Lila blushed so hard that it would embarrass a strawberry. Shiryu says, please put on a shirt. Issei muttered agua fiesta and from a magic circle, Issei had a red-colored boar. Lila says, still blushing, Issei-kun wanted to ask you a question. How did you manage to evolve the golden Virgo armor? That's what all the golden saints wanted to know. Issei says, it's actually very simple. To explain that is because I managed to awaken the 9th sense, although I am not a god, I have the power to fight against the gods themselves. Everyone in Athena's chambers was surprised. Lila says, so that's why when I saw you, Issei-kun, in the Virgo house, I felt in you a cosmos that was at my level. Again everyone was surprised. Lila says, well, changing the subject, Isaka, so you want to make an alliance. Isaka says that's how Athena-sama is, and to make this alliance stronger, it seems like an arranged marriage to her. Lila says interested and between who would it be? Isaka blushed deeply and dropped the nuclear bomb. Isaka says between Issei Dono and me. Lila, upon hearing Isaka say that, stood up from her seat and said that can't be done, Isaka. Since Issei-kun belongs only to me, he is mine. Everyone in Athena's chambers was surprised and in a very uncomfortable silence. Isaka says, come on, Athena-sama, share Issei's donation with me. I'm sure that the stamina he has for fighting will also be there for something else. And I highly doubt that Issei Dono will resist having 2 beautiful women in his bed. The men turned red upon hearing what Isaka said and Lila blushed like a tomato. Seeing herself in a bed naked with an also naked Issei doing certain things. She didn't dislike Lila and says okay Isaka-chan, I'll share Issei-kun with you, but I'll be the first in everything. Isaka agrees, Athena-sama blushing. Lila says, changing the subject, they managed to get information about what the specters are planning to do. Helena denied. Issei says Lila-chan, in fact I managed to get information about what the specters are planning to do. In fact, I got that information before killing Rhadamanthes. Lila says and what information did you get? Issei-kun. Issei says what I saw in Rhadamanthes' memories. The one who is taking charge of the underworld since the death of Hades is a woman named Persephone. And she with her blood and her power, bathed the armor of the most powerful specters allowing them. Wearing divine armor Lila as everyone was surprised. Lila says so I was right with my feeling this could mean a new holy war. Yasaka says if this is a new holy war, my yokai and I will support them in the war, Yasaka finished saying. Chapter 6. Meeting of the three biblical factions. After Yasaka said that she and her yokai would help in this new holy war. Lila says thanks Yasaka for helping us. Yasaka says it's the least I can do Athena-sama. After all, we are allies, Lila says, Yasaka. Nothing you heard should be known. Yasaka says so it will be Athena-sama. Lila says well Yasaka it's time to send them back to Kyoto. Yasaka says it's fine. Athena-sama. Lila says, we'll be in touch if anything happens. Lila created with her power a golden magic circle where Yasaka and Kunu disappeared. Lila says, well, my gentlemen, I understand that tomorrow night there will be a meeting of the three biblical factions to make peace. So I will contact Michael to make an alliance with the three biblical factions to make an alliance and see if they will give us their help. For this new holy war, Lila looked sideways at Issei to see what reaction he had. Lila says, well, my golden knights can retreat to continue protecting their homes. So all the golden knights began to come out and all with a single thought, the new golden knight of Virgo is indeed powerful. Leaving Lila and Shiryu alone in Athena's chambers, Shiryu said, Athena-sama Issei is very powerful. He is the first Virgo knight to awaken the ninth sense, something that not even Shaka managed to achieve. Lila says that's right, Shiryu Issei-kun is very powerful. Meanwhile, with Issei, he was heading to Virgo's house. Dragon dice mentalmente estas bien Issei respond mentalmente de maravilla dragon. Drake says okay Issei tomorrow we continue talking Issei says that's right Drake Issei. The next day in Athena's chambers the 12 golden saints were gathered with Lila and Shiryu. Lila says, good my gentlemen, we're leaving. Author's note. Did everything with Kakabiel, the Exorcists and Excalibur happen the same way it did in the original story, except that since Issei wasn't there, some things changed. End of author's note. Meanwhile in another more specific place in Kuo's school she was surrounded by angels, fallen angels and demons. Since a meeting was going to take place inside the building that was going to decide the fate of the three biblical factions. Meanwhile inside the Kuo Academy building was Serzich's Gremory, better known as Serzich's Lucifer, one of the 4 demon kings. And on his right side was Seraphol Citri, better known as Seraphol Leviathan, one of the 4 demon kings. And behind him were the members of the Gremory clan. And the members of the Citri clan. And on the other side was Azazel the leader of the fallen angels. And on his left side was Penemu, the most beautiful fallen angel. On her right side was the current White Empress Valeria. And in front of them was Michael the leader of the angels. And behind him was a beautiful blonde woman, she was Gabriel, the most powerful and beautiful seraph in heaven. And on Gabriel's left side was Arena Shido. Already on Gabriel's left side was Xenovia the fourth. Serzichas says, hey Rias, where is your pawn Issei Hyoudou? Everyone from the Gremory clan got a little nervous when they heard Serzichas say that. Rias says Issei is on vacation with his parents, that's why you haven't seen him Oni-sama. Serzichas says well it's fine Rias. Serzichas says, well, since we're all gathered, let's start this meeting. Michael says wait Serzichas someone is still missing. Serzichas was about to say something when a beautiful blonde woman came in. Of 12 people in golden armor, the men blushed furiously upon seeing the woman, except for Michael, and the women blushed furiously upon seeing a certain brunette. The blonde woman says good night, my name is Athena, the goddess of war and wisdom. And why I'm here is because I want to make an alliance since a new holy war will take place. Azazel says very seriously and against whom will this war be? Lila says against my aunt Persephone. Since she, like my uncle Hades, hates humans and all supernatural beings. Everyone was surprised and remained in a very awkward silence. Until that awkward silence was broken by Serzichas who recognized a brown-haired man, although he had changed. Serzichas says Issei-kun, aren't you supposed to be on vacation with your parents? Rias and the Gremory clan, upon hearing Serzichas say that name, a cold sweat ran down their backs. Issei says, raw vacation for nothing, the busty Reed and her gang of idiots haven't told you anything. Serzichas says that Issei-kun hasn't told me anything, and why are you with Athena-sama? Issei says after losing my fight for the second time against the Akatori. And seeing me give my heart to Drake so that the busty Reed and her gang of idiots would lend me their power. They tortured me for a week, leaving me in a forest to my fate, more dead than alive, then I found out. Lila Chan cured me and offered me the opportunity to be one of her golden knights, and without thinking twice I accepted. Everyone remained in an awkward silence where no one could believe it, even Lila was surprised because she didn't know that part of the story. Serzichas says furiously Rias after this meeting ends we will talk very seriously. But then all the Golden Knights and Lila felt a powerful cosmos and time froze. Then they began to come out of magic circles that were created in the sky and many-headed magicians began to come out. Surzicha says what happened when he saw Rias Akeno Kaneko Asia frozen. The Citri clan members were already frozen. Azazel says those magicians must have kidnapped the half-vampire and forced him into balance breaker. But then everyone saw a dark-skinned woman in black armor appear. Just imagine her in armor. And still holding blue hair and black armor. Issei formed a huge sadistic smile that gave everyone chills. Issei says ara, so the guest of honor arrived, the guy said. So you are the new Golden Knight of Virgo, considered the man closest to a god. And also, who killed that idiot Radamanthys, Issei? He says, raising his hands with a sadistic smile. I plead guilty. The guy in black armor says damn it kills you, but he couldn't continue talking because he received a powerful blow. Which sent him flying out of the room where the meeting was taking place. Chapter 7 Meeting interrupted. After what Issei sent the guy in black armor flying, Issei began to walk where he sent the guy in black armor flying and Issei began to be surrounded by a large golden cosmos. Issei snapped his fingers, returning time to normal. Those present were surprised by what Michael did. He said that you did Issei-kun. Issei says it's very simple, Michael-sama, just return time to normal. Everyone was surprised. Issei says, sorry Lila-chan for leaving, but I have to take care of an idiot. Leaving the building where the meeting was taking place, Nicholas says, Athena-sama, I'll take care of the magicians. Selena says, I'll help you Nicholas. Besides, it's been a while since I've drunk blood. Selena said it while showing his fangs, everyone was surprised. Rias says surprised, a vampire. Silenus and Nicholas without saying anything launched themselves against the magicians. Azazel tells a beautiful Albina Valeria. I will take care of our guests, the named Valeria, without saying anything, flew out breaking a window and in the sky she was dressed in white armor. Azazel dice Kateria Leviathan yo seer tu oponente lan embrada Kateria Leviathan. Says laughing, fence Azazel, since when did you become a comedian? Kateria began to be surrounded. By darkness Kateria says this power that Persephone gave me Sama, not even in your wildest dreams will you be able to have. Azazel says, upset, what is this strange power? This power is not demonic power. But Azazel couldn't continue speaking because Kateria gave Azazel a powerful blow that sent him flying out of the building. And Kateria was where Azazel fell. Yasmin says Athena-sama, I will help the fallen. Lila says okay. Back with Issei and Ayakos, Issei arrived where Ayakos was shooting. Ayako stood up and said, nice shot, I admit you caught me off guard. Issei says okay Spectre-san, what is your name? Ayako says my name is Ayakos of Garuda and I am a judge of the underworld. Issei says well my name is Issei Hyoudou. Ayako says well let the fight begin like this. The Issei vs Ayakos fight began, where they threw punches and kicks and continued like this for a few minutes. Where the two took distance and neither had almost any damage except their armor had slight blows. Issei says it's time to get serious, taking off his eye patch that covered his left eye. Issei says let's start the fight. Issei used it to Kitabashi and began to hit Ayakos and damage him. Issei says receive this trident of doom. Sending against Ayakos a powerful whirlwind of black fire with black rays. The whirlpool swallowing Ayakos and causing a huge explosion, sending Ayakos flying where the leaders of the three biblical factions were, and that explosion was seen by everyone. But the leaders Nicholas and Silenus as Valeria had already finished off all the magicians and Rias rescued Gasper, as well as Yasmin saved Azazel from death by killing Kateria Leviathan herself. When everyone saw that explosion and worried, but everyone saw someone fall from the sky. To create its crater with its fall that raised a large column of smoke. But everyone saw that someone came out of the crater and the smoke cleared to see the silhouette of Ayakos. With parts of his armor broken and without his left arm, everyone was surprised, but they all came out of their amazement. When you hear a familiar voice say ara so you're still alive and you only lost an arm. And I wanted to kill you with a single attack, but I see that you are resistant. Everyone looked at the sky where the voice came from to see Issei flying. Again everyone was surprised except the Golden Knights and Athena, since they had already seen him fly. Rias says surprised she can fly without wings. Back to the fight. Ayako screams damn I'll kill you. Ayakos began to raise his cosmos alarming mind and began to be surrounded by a great darkness. Everyone felt that pressure and got on their knees. Nicholas says, Athena-sama, this is the same feeling that Radamanthys gave off. Lila says it's likely that she also has the power and blood of my aunt Persephone in her armor to be able to reach the divine armor. Everyone was surprised when they heard Athena say that. Rias says laughing and with some malice they will kill that idiot. And that comment didn't please anyone. Ayakos finished expelling his cosmos and stopped being surrounded by that darkness to let him be seen with his new armor. Ayako says I present to you the divine armor of Garuda. Everyone was surprised. Issei, feeling the powerful cosmos that Ayako's was releasing, became serious and in a great golden flash, began to surround Issei. This one was wearing the Virgo armor, Nirvana style. Ayako says that's all your cosmos is pathetic. Issei says mentally are you ready Drag answers yes partner kick his ass. Issei says still flying Ayako's you will be the first to see this form. Issei started a chant. I, the one who will awaken, am the red dragon of domination and destruction, I will surpass infinity. And I will destroy the white dreams of a forbidden existence and take you to the depths of the imperial crimson purgatory driver. When Issei finished saying that chant, he was surrounded by an immense black fire with black lightning, and a powerful presence and immense power were felt. It was at the same level as Ayako's. Ayako says surprised what the hell. The black fire with black rays cleared, revealing Issei's new appearance. Issei had black hair that looked like it was made of black fire with 4 huge red dragon wings like blood coming out of Issei's back. The women blushed furiously upon seeing Issei's new appearance. Rias says that it is that form Albion I feel a great power coming from the bearer of Drag. Chapter 8 Issei vs Ayako's. After Rias said that it was that form, Albion said that form, I have never seen it, but I feel a great power. Back to the fight Issei and Ayako's. Issei says are you ready Ayako's answers come kid. Both Ayako's and Issei disappeared and only a golden flash could be seen colliding with a black one. Where Issei and Ayako's kicked and punched each other and Issei began to use his Takitabashi and began to do great damage to Ayako's. Issei took a powerful blow to the stomach that Ayako's spit blood from the strong blow. After Issei hit him in the stomach, Issei gave him a powerful save that sent Ayako's flying. Issei says receive this comet revolution, sending hundreds of comet-shaped attacks to Ayako's. Ayako screams in pain sending him to the ground. Ayako's gets up from the ground and disappears and appears behind Issei, giving him powerful blows that begin to break parts of his armor. Ayako shouts taking this impact from Garuda, giving Issei a powerful blow that sent him flying and crashing into the occult club building with the spectators who were surprised to see that fight. Back to the fight Issei gets up from the rubble with some parts of his armor broken and bleeding from the lip. Issei and Ayako's disappear and start fighting again. Issei says take this voltage shock giving Ayako's a powerful shock of black lightning, sending Ayako's a few meters away. Ayako's is not far behind and says take this Garuda killer wind moving his wings sending strong wind blades. Issei seeing that says Cam protecting himself. Issei disappears his barrier and moves his rosary and says take this the 100 supreme dragons of the sky. And 100 golden dragons appeared in the sky and attacked Ayako's, sending him to the ground and making Ayako scream in pain. All the spectators were surprised. No one noticed that a shadow was behind Lila until they heard Lila's scream. Everyone looked where Lila was to see another man in black armor disappear with Lila. Ayako's, seeing that, got up from the ground very seriously and started laughing like crazy ha 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 ha, so the plan worked, stupid ha 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 ha. Issei, seeing that Lila was kidnapped, began to unleash a powerful killing instinct, which made everyone tremble with fear and break out in a cold sweat. Ayako's, feeling that powerful killer instinct, stopped laughing and began to sweat profusely. Issei disappeared and appeared above Ayako's to give him a powerful save that broke his armor. Issei lifted Ayako's by the neck and said coldly where is Lila-chan. Ayako spat in Issei's face and says I won't tell you trash. Issei says then you are of no use to me and with astonishing ease, Issei pierced Ayako's heart killing him and throwing her body aside and starting to turn into dust. Everyone was shocked by the kidnapping of Lila and the brutality for Issei to kill his enemy. In Issei's mind, he couldn't believe it. Because of his carelessness, they kidnapped Lila and he didn't know where they took her. Drake says mentally calm down partner because they don't detect your cosmos and you teleport and stop emitting your killer instinct. Issei says mentally thanks Drake for getting out of his thoughts and stop sending his killing intent. Issei came out of his thoughts and sees the other Golden Knights and the Patriarch very worried about Lila. Issei begins to feel all the presences of the world until he detects several strong presences somewhere in the world. Issei says seriously he slightly detected the presence of Lila-chan. Nicholas says, where is the presence of Athena-sama? Issei says let's rescue Lila-chan touch some part of my body and let's go. Michael says Issei-kun I will go, I can take Irina-san and Xenovia-san and my sister Gabriel representing heaven. The aforementioned were surprised but they approach where Issei is. Azazel says Issei will go, along with Penemu and Valeria representing the fallen angels. Surzicha says Issei-kun, I will go with Seraphil on behalf of the demons and know that we want the peace alliance with Athena and help them in this war. Issei says okay touch some part of my body and let's go like that everyone took Issei put his fingers on his forehead to disappear. Meanwhile, somewhere else, there was a beautiful red-haired woman in armor. Sitting on a throne, next to her was Lila, chained. The red-haired woman could only smile. Back with Issei and the others, they appear outside a large castle with a barrier around it. Issei says walking. Shiryu says wait. Issei, if we enter the barrier it will decrease our power until leaving us with 10% of our power. Issei says don't worry Patriarch-sama, I'll go in and deactivate the barrier. And I don't think they raid specters at their level since I killed 2 of the 3 judges of the underworld even though their power is very low. Shiryu says okay Issei. Issei says see you Patriarch-sama. Issei, saying that entered the castle heading to destroy the barrier. After Issei entered the castle, the others entered and noticed how their strength dropped abysmally. With Issei he was heading to where the barrier was to destroy it. Issei entered a room where he felt a powerful cosmos. To enter, but Issei dodged an attack that came from the shadows to hear some laughter ha 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 ha. Issei sensed 5 powerful cosmos and says who are you and what do they want? One of the unknown voices says insolent human, we speak with more respect since we are gods. Another unknown voice says, wow, Athena has some very handsome knights. What a shame I have to kill you, Issei says, I don't have time for your little games, I have more important things to do. So another voice comes out and says, damn insolent human, I'll kill you like this at the speed of light. A small subject appears, giving Issei a powerful blow. That sent him flying to crash into the rubble. Chapter 9 Issei versus the Gods of Sleep. After which Issei was sent to the rubble by the subject. The guy said, haha, trash. A beautiful blonde woman said, you already killed him, Akelos. Says shut up Phantasos. The woman called Phantasos only flinched but noticed that black flames came out of the rubble where Akelos had sent Issei flying. To see a golden blur pass by that gave Akelos a powerful blow that sent him flying, but Akelos recovered to disappear. Phantasos says ara, so Athena has the dreaded security as her golden knight. Since Issei had a gauntlet that covered his entire arm and blood red with. And 12 red horns Issei says with a very nice cold voice, let me destroy what generates the barrier and we leave this as if it had never happened. Or I kick their asses and still destroy what creates the barrier. Phantasos was going to say something but he heard a very familiar voice. Don't be so arrogant, knight, how do you think you can defeat us if we are gods? Issei says, come and we'll dance, and from the shadows a man in black armor came out to send a fist and collide with Issei's fist. Issei says who are you? The guy says my name is Fabader. The dream-eating god Issei says interesting name, at least I know the name of the person I'm going to kill. Fabader says don't tell jokes human, and so Issei and Fabader began their fight of punches and kicks and the other 4 gods of sleep only watched the fight. Another one with black armor jumped where Issei was fighting with Fabader. When Issei felt that cosmos, he put his arms in an X shape to protect himself from the blow. Sending Issei some Lego meters from Fabader. Fabader says why are you getting involved Morpheus? Morpheus says stop playing with that knight Fabader, remember that the Nado-sama told us to kill everyone who entered the castle. Fabader sighed and said okay Morpheus. Issei says don't ignore me. Issei without saying anything launched himself against Morpheus and Fabader, taking Fabader off guard and giving Fabader a powerful blow to the face that sent him flying into the sky. Issei spins in his edge giving a powerful kick to Morpheus's abdomen, sending him flying into a wall. Issei disappears, appearing above Fabader and charging a red energy with black rays on his finger. Issei says, take this, 0, hitting Fabader squarely, sending him crashing into the ground. Issei in the sky opens a crack behind Issei, and Akelos appears wanting to hit him, but Akelos just passes through Issei, as if he were a ghost. Akelos was surprised but received a powerful hammer blow from Issei that made him crash to the ground. Phantasos was very surprised because she had never seen the Golden Knight of Athena manage to hit her 3 brothers in such a way. Issei heard another voice, go on, you are powerful, knight. Issei says, who are you? The unknown voice says, go on, you want to die soon, but I introduce myself, my name is Anaros. Issei, okay, let's see how well you dance. Anaros disappeared in a black flash to start a fight with Issei. Akelos, Morpheus and Fabader seeing that they launched themselves against Issei and a great fight of 4 versus 1 began. Issei used his Takitabashi at full power, giving powerful blows to the 4 minor gods of sleep. And so they continued hitting for a few minutes where the 5 began to break their armor. Issei says receive this trident of doom, launching its black fire with black rays against the 4 minor gods of sleep. Fabader, seeing that attack, says, take this, soul tomb, launching a powerful wide attack in the shape of a demonic skull. Both attacks collided causing a huge explosion and raising a large amount of smoke. And this was taken advantage of by Issei, and he appeared behind Fabader with black rays in his hand. Issei says, take this, Chidori. Piercing Fabader's armor in the chest along with his heart. Splashing his blood on Virgo's armor and it gave a slight shine that no one noticed because of the smoke. Fobiter couldn't scream as he fell dead and began to turn to dust and clearing the smoke, and the four lesser gods of sleep could only watch their brother Fobiter disappear. Issei says with a sadistic smile that made Phantasos blush very well, one less, only four left. Michello says furious bastard I'll kill you and launches himself at Issei in a fight with punches and kicks. Ineros, Phantasos and Morpheus did not stay with their arms crossed and the fight began where Issei used his Takidabashi, but the four minor gods of sleep began to block Issei's blows and began to hit Issei, completely breaking his armor and began to do great damage to Issei. Inero says, take this human extinction from the sky, sending Issei a powerful black ray that sent Issei to the ground. A few seconds passed where Issei began to get up and nothing more, wearing the boots and gloves of the Virgo armor without a shirt, bleeding everywhere and with large wounds. Ineros, seeing Issei still alive, says, wow, trash. So you're still alive, but I'll kill you very soon. Issei, upon hearing Ineros say that, raised his gaze to reveal his bleeding face. Issei in a whisper that no one heard says Kaioken. The start surrounded by a red light in her black hair. Issei took on reddish tones in a blur of speed, disappeared and appeared on Morpheus's back. And starting to give him a rain of fists that began to break Morpheus's armor and do great damage that made Morpheus scream in pain. Issei gave him a powerful hammer blow that sent Morpheus to the ground. Issei disappeared again. And they appear where Morpheus was lying. Issei stretched out his finger and said, take this, hitting Morpheus directly, killing him instantly and turning him into dust. This surprised Ineros Akelos, and success to Phantasos. Ineros and Akelos say damn, and without thinking twice they raised their cosmos alarming mind. And they began to be surrounded by purple cosmos with black rays that made the whole castle tremble. And the room where they were begins to shake, and the cosmos that Ineros and Akelos released was felt by all the golden saints and Shiryu. And Michael, Gabriel, Irina, Xenovia, Azazel, Penemu, Valeria, Surziches, Seraphil, these, feeling that cosmos and that power, all fell to their knees because of the pressure they felt. Nicholas on his knees says that this is this monstrous cosmos. Flora on her knees says this power surpasses us all, and that barrier took away much of our power. Michael on his knees says this power is at the level of the gods. Back to the fight, Ineros and Akelos finished expelling their cosmos to reveal Ineros with a new armor. Akelos now also with his new armor. Ineros says, admire mortal my divine armor, I will give you this privilege before I kill you. Akelos says that's trash, I'll kill you with my own hands and then I'll kill those golden knights. But Issei didn't say anything. Issei says in his thoughts, I hope my body can handle this load. Ineros says that damn human, why don't you say anything about it? You're afraid and you've already resigned yourself to the fact that you'll die here. But Issei in a whisper says Kaioken X5 so that he begins to be surrounded by an intense blood red aura. Her black hair turns blood red and her power made the whole castle tremble and the room where they were began to be destroyed. Ineros and Akelos were surprised by the great power that Issei Ineros gave off. He says what the hell is this energy? It's not cosmos, what is it? Issei says nothing and with that red energy surrounding him he disappears in a red blur. And appears in front of Ineros. Ineros says surprised what the hell, how fast I didn't see him disappear. Issei being in front of Ineros began to give a shower of punches and kicks to Ineros that made him scream in pain and his armor began to be destroyed. Ineros could only scream in pain from the beating Issei was giving him. Issei sent Ineros to the ground but before falling Issei brought his hands together and began to say Kamehameha and launched a powerful blast of blue energy that collided with Ineros to cause a huge explosion and disintegrate Ineros. Akelos was surprised by how easily Issei killed Ineros. Akelos says in his thoughts, I couldn't be that human, he's very powerful. Those were Akelos' thoughts. But Issei, using the Kaioken X5 with those wounds began to take its toll. Drake mentally says Issei you have to defeat Akelos as quickly as possible, I don't think the Kaioken will last long in your current state. Issei mentally responds that's right, Drake, then we continue talking. Issei cuts his mental link with Drake. Issei looks at Akelos and disappears. Akelos didn't see Issei's speed until he felt the air leaving his lungs. To fly away, but Issei didn't even give him time for Akelos to catch his breath. Because Issei began to rain down blows on him, making Akelos scream in pain and breaking his armor. Issei sent a wounded Akelos to the ground, but before he could touch the ground, Issei said, take this, Kamehameha. Completely destroying the room and what created the barrier, raising a large amount of smoke. Phantasos covered herself so as not to be hurt by the explosion and when she could see better. I was surprised because the room where I was fighting was destroyed and what created the barrier was also destroyed. Chapter 10. Unexpected surprises. After the smoke completely disappears, Phantasos looks up. To run into an Issei without the Kaioken and his previously black hair returned to brown and without his 4 dragon wings. And falling at great speed back with the others in the castle, Shorin says my forces returned Issei-san managed to destroy the castle barrier. Belina says, but where is Issei-kun? Nicholas says I'm sure Issei-san will catch up with us. But we must continue our journey to rescue Athena-sama. Back with Issei, he was in a wounded crater and Phantasos was approaching where Issei was lying. Issei, feeling the presence of Phantasos, began to slowly get up from the ground, his body seriously injured. Issei looked at Phantasos with blood on his face intensely with his different colored eyes. Phantasos, seeing how Issei was looking at her intensely, blushed deeply. Phantasos says calm down sir. I don't want to fight. In fact, I don't like bloodshed or unnecessary fights. Issei says smiling I see that you are not like the other four arrogant ones. Phantasos smiling says that's right, I'm not like the others, I'm more like my father Hypnos. Phantasos says, but what did you do? It was something that no golden knight had achieved. Look, killing my four brothers by yourself. But the barrier that greatly diminished your power, Issei says that you don't want revenge for seeing your brothers killed. Phantasos laughs and says not at all, but now that you have destroyed the barrier what are you doing? Issei says it's not obvious I'll go rescue Lila-chan. Phantasos says, because of the love you're addressing the reincarnation of Athena you like. Issei blushed upon hearing what Phantasos said. Issei, still blushing, says that's how it is, after all, I owe my life to Lila-chan for saving me from death. Phantasos says okay, I'll help you, and she said it blushing, you're the man I've waited for millennia. Issei says what do you mean by saying that I am the man you have waited for millennia? Phantasos blushes and says, you are the one to be the future father of my children. Issei blushed heavily upon hearing Phantasos say that. Phantasos blushes and says you have to take responsibility. Issei still blushes. Braig says mentally and mockingly, wow, Issei, you already have the first candidate for your harem, and she's a goddess. Issei responds mentally shut up Drag you are no help. Phantasos says well changing the subject Athena is captured in the Elysian fields. That brought Issei out of his thoughts. Issei says, Lila-chan is in the Champs-Élysées. Phantasos says that's right, but first let me heal you and repair your armor. Then took off one of his gloves, making a cut on his palm. To spill his blood on one of the gloves of Virgo's armor. Then Virgo's armor gave off a great golden glow that left Issei and Phantasos blind for a few seconds. And when Phantasos regained his sight he was surprised and blushed at the new armor Issei was wearing and the new appearance of Virgo's armor. Issei noticing that he felt more power and somewhat recovered and seeing Phantasos blushing. Issei says I feel more powerful and somewhat recovered. Phantasos blushing says, well of course, after all your golden armor was bathed in the blood of a goddess and your wounds are healed. Issei says thank you very much, but what is your name? Phantasos says my name is Phantasos. Issei says nice name like your Phantasos-chan. Phantasos blushed hard. Issei says well Phantasos-chan I have to continue on my way to rescue Lila-chan. Phantasos says I'm going with you. Issei says okay you'll come with me Phantasos. Meanwhile with Nicholas and the other golden knights and the leaders and their companions. They entered the depths of the castle and reached the underworld. Shiryu says let's continue on our way, we're very close to the first prison. But first we have to wait for Charon to take us to the other side. Michael says look that's Charon so everyone could see a tall man in black armor. Charon says if they want to cross the river to the other side it will cost them a few gold coins. Serziches takes a bag out of his clothes and rushes to Charon. Charon checks the inside of the bag. To see enough gold coins Charon says with this it is enough to cross them all, so get on my raft. The 11 golden saints Shiryu Serziches Seraphil Azazel Penemu Valeria Michael Gabriel Irina and Xenovia. They get on Charon's raft. A few minutes later, Charon had already taken them to the other side of the lake but they didn't notice Charon's evil smile. And they all headed to the first prison where a white-haired man in black armor was waiting for them. The white-haired man says that knights and leaders have arrived, Shiryu is very surprised and says Loon. Lunatus I will be his opponent and I am not as stupid as the imbeciles of Rhadamanthys and Iacchos. But Nicholas says then I will be your opponent, Loon says Riki's son. But I'm afraid someone else wants to see you, Nicholas says, and who is it? But they all heard a voice very familiar to Nicholas say Wings of the Phoenix of the Underworld. Nicholas was very surprised when he heard that but he didn't have much time to think. Why did he have to dodge that attack and then see a blue-haired man with red and gold armor? Nicholas, seeing the blue-haired boy, shed a few tears and said, Father, the blue-haired boy said, I'm glad to see you, Nicholas, I'm proud of you. Seeing you with that armor, Shiryu says, Ikki, what the hell are you doing with that armor? Ikki says, Shiryu, the patriarch's clothes look good on you, but someone else wants to see you. And everyone in another voice very well known to Shiryu the 100 dragons of Rosen of the underworld, to which everyone had to dodge that attack. But the biblical factions along with their companions had no luck and ended up seriously injured. Shiryu, seeing the person who was like his father with that armor, shed some tears and only said Master Doko. The name Doko says hello Shiryu, it's good to see you Shiryu says shedding some tears Master Doko. What are you doing here and with that armor Doko answers Persephone-sama revived us to stop them. And very soon the human world will be covered in eternal darkness. Shiryu says that's impossible, but I won't allow that to happen and with all the pain in my heart, I'll have to stop him. And without further ado, Shiryu takes off his patriarch's clothes and shouts, come to my dragon armor. And in a great golden light the dragon's cloud appears. Shiryu says protect my body and without further ado the dragon's cloud covered Shiryu in a great golden glow that dried everything. And when everyone could see better, Shiryu had his armor, but it was very different. Doko smiles and says that this is the appearance that a bronze armor takes when it is surrounded by the blood of a god. Seleno says I will be Loon's opponent and without further ado Ikki and Doko's eyes turned red and they launched themselves to attack Nicholas and Shiryu Seleno went to find Loon. Shiryu says fighting Doko, you guys keep going, we'll keep you busy, just go and rescue Athena-sama. Flora agrees, Patriarch-sama, and without further ado, Flora, along with the 9 golden saints, and some recovered Michael Azazel, Sirzes Seraphol, Penemu, Gabriel, and Valeria left. Let me know in the comments below if you guys want the next part. Also check out my other video that has been shown and left. Thank you for watching, if you enjoyed this video please like and share this video. And have a fantastic day bye.